Hello to my lovely class. Welcome to the last part of our class and welcome to Study Wave Academy, where education is without limits. Welcome to our English class, and let's continue looking at pronouns. So we've talked about several types of pronouns. I've talked about the possessive pronouns. I even talked about the personal pronouns, and I went ahead to talk about the interrogative pronouns, and finally talk to you about the demonstrative pronouns. So right now I want us to look at the last type in our list today, and that is the reflexive pronouns. So we're going to be talking about the reflexive pronouns, okay? So with the reflexive pronouns, these are a specific type of pronouns that are used to show that the subject of the sentence is also the object of the action. Okay, so they just show emphasis. It's very simple. With the reflexive pronouns, they show emphasis. Okay, so they just show that an action is being done by something and not other things. So the action is being performed or being done by someone or something by themselves. Okay, so reflexive pronouns are formed by adding self. So when you find something like my, you add self. Maybe them, you add self. Him, you add self. Her, you had self. Okay, so you just add self to the singular pronouns. Okay, so we have her, we had herself. Okay, him will be himself. Okay, and then when it's plural, we had selves. So look at that. When it's plural, we had selves. So for example, them, it will be themselves. Okay, so notice that. So we'll be looking at this and just showing how reflexive pronouns work. So now let's jump in and talk about these reflexive pronouns. Okay, it's very simple and easy to understand. Nothing very hard about it. So now reflexive pronouns are used to indicate that the subject of the sentence performs an action on itself. So with the reflexive pronouns, you're just trying to emphasize or show that an action is being performed, okay, or an action is being performed by the specific thing or the specific person. Okay, so for example, here we have myself, yourself, himself. I can do it myself. You need to take care of yourself. He hurt himself while playing. So you notice that with the reflexive pronouns, they just show that no one else did the action but you. Okay, no one else did this action but you. So notice that about reflexive pronouns. So with this reflexive pronouns, it means that no one else did an action but you. So I can do it myself. No one else can do it but yourself. You need to take care of yourself. You need to take care of yourself. No one else has to do that for you. Okay, he hurt himself while playing. It means that no one else hurt him, or no one else made him hurt himself, but he did it himself. Okay, so we have myself, we have yourself, and we have himself. Okay, so now we have examples here: itself, ourselves, yourselves, themselves. Okay, so you notice that these ones are the singular form. Myself, yourself, himself are the singular form. Okay, but when you have things like itself, ourselves, yourselves, themselves, they show the plural form. The computer can turn itself on. So this can be the plural or the plural form here. So itself is, sorry, let me repeat this. So when we talk about myself, yourself, and itself here, we're talking about the singular form. Myself, himself, yourself, myself, itself. That is the singular form of the reflexive pronouns. The computer can turn itself on. It means that the computer doesn't need maybe a human help or anything like that, but it can turn on itself. Okay, then when we talk about the plural part, now we have ourselves, yourselves, and themselves. We clean the room ourselves. It means no one else helped us, but we as the students cleaned our classroom or maybe the staff room. Okay, you can help yourselves to some snacks. It means that I'm telling all of you, you can help yourselves to some snacks. Okay, themselves also shows the plural form. They organize the event themselves, so no one else helped them, but they helped themselves organize the event. So notice that about that is very important. Now I will look at each one of them again so that we can be able to even understand better. Now, myself is used when the subject and the object of the actions are the same. The speaker is the subject here. I can do it myself. Me as the speaker, I can do it myself. So that is when we use myself, when the speaker is talking. Then yourself is used again when the subject and the object of the action are the same. And you are directing, or you are directly addressing someone. So you're addressing someone directly. For example, you need to take care of yourself. Here as the speaker, I'm talking to someone, so I will use yourself to address someone directly. Okay, so I'm talking to that person directly. Now that's when I will use yourself. Then the use of himself comes in when the subject and the object of the action are the same. Okay, and the subject is a male. Notice that again. So himself is used when the subject is a male. He hurt himself while playing. He hurt himself while playing. So here you notice that it's a male first. It's a male or a boy, and no one else hurt him, but he hurt himself. So that is when we use himself. Again, it's the singular form of the reflexive pronouns. Don't forget that. Okay, then we have herself. Now this is the opposite of this is the opposite of himself. This one is used when the subject and the object of the actions are the same, and the subject is the female. She baked the cake herself. It means that no one else helped this girl bake the cake, but she baked the cake herself. So notice that different class. Notice the difference there. So herself is used for the female, while himself is used for the male. Now we have something again. We have itself. Now for itself, it's used when the subject and the object of the action are the same again, and the subject here is non-living thing or an animal. So itself is used for non-living things like plants, trees. Trees are living actually. Don't forget about that. From your science class, I think you've been told that trees and plants are living things. So we have also we can use such things on trees. The tree grew itself. Okay, so we can use things on and other non-living things like maybe the cup. The cup fell down by itself. Okay, so itself is used on such non-living things like cups, and even animals. The dog untied itself. Okay, or the dog started running by itself. So itself is used when the subject is a non-living thing or an animal. So for example, the computer can turn itself on. Okay, or the computer can turn itself. So here the computer is used as an item or an unliving thing, and it basically shows that no one else can turn on the computer, but it can basically turn itself on. Okay, so that is when we use itself. Then we have ourselves. When we talk about ourselves, it's used when the subject and the object of the action are the same, and the subject is we. Now this one shows the plural form. Now this means we are many, and the subject here is we. Okay, so we cleaned the room ourselves. It means that we did it. So the subject is we. We cleaned the room ourselves. So no one else helped us, but we cleaned this room by ourselves. So don't forget about that. Okay, then we have another example here, and that is yourselves. Now this again is used when the subject and the object of the action are the same, and the subject is you, and it's also in a plural or a formal context. For example, you can help yourselves to some snacks. This shows the plural form where I'm talking to, maybe I'm telling the students or some parents or teachers that you can help yourselves to some snacks. Okay, so yourselves here shows the plural form of a subject here. Okay, then lastly we have themselves. Now themselves here is used when the subject and the object of the actions are the same again, and the subject is they. They organize the event themselves. They is the subject here, so they did all this organization of the event by themselves without no one's help or no one's influence. Okay, so one thing we have to understand about this is that reflexive pronouns emphasize the self-action of the subject in a sentence, and they are commonly used in English to add clarity and the meaning to statements. So that is all about the reflexive pronouns. Now, to conclude our topic on pronouns, so we just have to know that pronouns are essential in linguistic, and linguistic is basically language. So it's essential in linguistic tools that serve to replace nouns in sentences, making language more efficient and avoiding redundancy. They come in various types, including personal, possessive, demonstrative, relative, interrogative, indefinite, reciprocals, and reflective pronouns. So just know this is all about the pronouns that we're talking about. They just used to make the language more efficient and just avoid repetition or redundancy. So these pronouns play a very, very crucial or important role in effective communication, and it helps to clarify ownership and also indicating questions, emphasize on self-actions. So emphasizing on self-actions is the reflexive pronouns we've talked about. Indicating questions is the interrogative pronouns we talked about. Then helping to clarify ownership, I know you know the type of pronoun here. Okay, so these are the major roles of these pronouns. So they help us to satisfy all these functions. So a solid understanding of these pronouns is fundamental for clear and concise expression in both written and spoken language. So when we write, when we speak, we majorly use these pronouns, and we have to know how to use them very well. So that's why we learn about them. So just to end our class, we have this small activity here. We have 10 very simple and fun questions that I expect us to work on. For example, questions like, what are the personal pronouns and how do they differ from other types of pronouns? Provide examples of at least 3 personal pronouns, including both subject and object form. I've looked at all this and I don't expect you to fail to do it, and if you have challenges, you can also always go back to what we've learned and just get some clarity on what you want to write about. So these are very simple questions that I expect you to do. Explain the role of possessive pronouns and provide examples. Very simple. How do reflexive pronouns differ from other pronouns and what is their purpose? Another simple question here. Very simple question. Same to singular possessive pronouns. So this is specific. Name singular possessive pronouns and provide a sentence for each. Very easy. When should you use who? An interrogative pronoun, and what does it refer to? Such questions, class, we can't fail to answer them. Questions like explain the difference between demonstrative pronouns, this and these. I've talked about that, and I explain the difference. What does the pronoun it typically refer to? I have talked about that. How are plural possessive pronouns different from singular possessive pronouns, and provide each example, or provide an example for each. Who can fail to do this? And I've done this already. When should you use reflexive pronouns yourself? Like yourselves, when should you use it, and in what context should you use it, and when is it appropriate? So all these questions, there's 10 simple questions that I've given you, and I've already talked about them just to better your understanding. When you're doing these questions, I just expect you to write your answer down first. Just trust yourself before going to research or going to clarify something. Just do it yourself, and then after you're done, try now confirm if you're correct. Okay, now you go back to what we've learned and now go through your notes and just analyze if what you've written is okay. So this is all, and I'm so grateful for today. Thank you so much for the class and joining the